There's a new number one in my top 25. Ole Miss didn't do Florida State any favors, and it is OU Texas week, baby. Let's go. It's the number one college football show. What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Thank you for watching on the Fox Sports app, YouTube, or listening wherever you get your podcast. Today on the show, I got to go through my top 25 where I have a new number one team, and also go through the AP's top 25 where it's a bit of moving and shaking toward the back of the top 25, but not necessarily toward the front. We'll get into why I might have some nitpicks here and there, but for the most part, it's week 5, right? And we did the show on Saturday night before a couple of top 25 matchups had finished. Catch you up on those so we have some context going into the Associated Press poll rankings in mind. Number 11, Notre Dame stunned number 17, Duke, 21-14. Audric Estime decided to say, you know what? I'm going to help you. And then Sam Hartman said, I'll do it my damn self. And I really loved that. I was having fun watching that game. It's nice to see 17-14 mean something. And Duke go into a game that they felt like they could win against Notre Dame. Wild. Number 20, Ole Miss won a thriller against number 13, LSU, 55-49. It's over 1,300 yards of offense in this game, 706 from Ole Miss alone. LSU led this game 49-40 at one point, and Ole Miss led this game 21-7 at one point. And after all the talk about what Alex Grinch did or didn't do against Colorado, I'm telling you, if that man shows up to his next press availability and says with a straight face, Ole Miss and LSU combined for over 100 points and 1,300 yards, and then walks off, got to respect it. Got to respect it. So that catches us up on what happened on Saturday night. But how do these games impact the rankings, both the AP and my own? So we'll get started taking a look at the Associated Press polls rankings. Really not much movement at all until we get to number 8 here, where Oregon was able to make the jump over USC. Mostly, I believe, on the strength of a common opponent, right? You'll know that USC narrowly escaped Folsom with a 48-41 win against Colorado. That is the same Colorado team that went up to Autzen and got stone cold stunned by the Ducks in Eugene, 42-6. And then, of course, Oregon took care of business. It was wild because it was 14-6 against Stanford to start the second half. And then they decided that they wanted to play a little bit of football against the Cardinal, a team that had put money in the bag against Sacramento State. We're not going to know much about Oregon until they got to play some of these other teams that are ranked in the top 25. Among them, number 7, Washington, who I think is a favorite now to not just win the conference, but to play in the college football playoff for the first time since 2016. And remember, we haven't had a Pac-12 team play in the college football playoff since 2016. And that was Washington. Chris Peterson was head coach, so forth, so on. I'm not so sure that USC needed to drop to 9, but I understand it. You've had 2 back-to-back performances by your defense that were just abysmal, where you had Arizona State in a game with you because the defense couldn't stop them. You had Colorado in a game with you that you led 41-14 because you couldn't stop Shedeur Sanders and a true freshman at wide receiver, more or less making his debut. It's just not a good look. But I'm looking at SC, and I'm looking at Oregon, and I'm looking at Washington. And everybody's got a great quarterback. We know this. Everybody can move the ball offensively. We know this. It's about which one of these defenses do we trust, right? USC goes from being the scariest and most terrifying team in football to me to, okay, one for which if you get into a shootout with them, you got an opportunity to win it. Still don't know much about Washington's defense based on who they have played. And Tosh Lupoi, I know, is a great defensive coordinator. And I know Dan Lanning was a great defensive coordinator before becoming head coach at Oregon. Right now, it feels like Oregon is going to have the best opportunity to show us what they're made of sooner rather than later, because their schedule is going to pick up here in a hurry. Number 10, Notre Dame. Again, I think they deserve this spot. They played 2 of the toughest opponents that we've seen all year in Ohio State and Duke. They were in a game against Ohio State. They lost it controversially at the end, but nothing about their performance led us to believe that it's not a team that could play for the college football playoff. However, you were losing 14-13 to an undefeated Duke that we all acknowledge is good. And he needed Sam Hartman to come up with a QB scramble on 4th and 16 to get you a first down, put you in position to win the football game. Now, on top of all of that, you still got USC left to play. So the only problem that they were going to have to overcome is you can't lose again. We'll let the Ohio State loss slide, but losing to Duke would have definitely put them out of the college football playoff contention. And now you got an SC on your schedule, as well as a few other ACC opponents that we respect, where you could ride this into one loss and sit out the conference championship weekend and slide into that number 4 spot, just like old times at Notre Dame. Number 11, Alabama, they look good against Mississippi State. I understand Mississippi State ain't nobody, but you put up 40, and Jalen Milroe has really solidified his position as their starting quarterback. Defense is still terrifying. That's a Nick Saban defense. There's nothing that you're going to be able to do with it. And the longer that game gets played, the closer it is, the better I feel about Alabama in these closer games. And now, based on what I saw from Ole Miss and LSU, I don't know who's going to win the SEC West, man. Like, I thought Alabama was cream of the crop for what they did against Ole Miss, but LSU, it showed at times that they were about it, right? They might be the 3rd best team in that conference. We don't know what Auburn is or isn't. We're talking about them in Georgia in a little bit, and we're not really sure what Texas A&M is or isn't. So that side of the conference is going to be a lot of fun, but we're back to just, I trust Alabama before I trust any other head coach in that conference. Number 12, Oklahoma. I'm fired up. Super fired up, because Sooners 5-0, baby. 5-0, put up 50 or more in 3 of those 5 games, and the defense is letting nobody score. 5 TDs allowed by the defense in 5 games. They have more interceptions than they have allowed TDs on that defense, and we're not walking into OU Texas without the starting quarterback. Yes, you're going to hear it from me, but you know what? Don't mind Oklahoma. Again, they're 12 here. Associated Press said, don't mind Oklahoma. It's just the most consequential Red River shootout since 2008. Telling you, we could see not just a college football playoff contender in this game again, but a national title contender in this game again. I'm fired up, baby. The Red River shootout is back, baby. In its last year in the Big 12. Let's get it. Again, you're going to hear more of this, because I got a lot of mo. Clubber Lang got a lot of mo for you. We got Washington State here at number 13. Really great week for them, having played nobody at all. But another one of those teams that we got to figure it out. Maybe Pac-12 is theirs, and we just don't know it yet. Cam Ward's having an outstanding year. And Jake Dickert, a defensive coach, has been doing some really outstanding things with that defense as well. Number 14, North Carolina. I thought Oregon State at 15, they might have expected a bigger bump from this, but you beat up on Utah at home without Cam Rising. None of us got a good read on what Utah is or isn't without Cam Rising. We just know that they are 4-1 with 2 ranked wins without the man. They're at 18 there. Duke stays at 19. Riley Leonard apparently suffered a high ankle sprain. Maybe that keeps him out a couple of weeks. Maybe that gets him ready for Florida State, where we can actually get a good read on who this team is a little bit further down the line. And I'm not upset about having Fresno State or Louisville there 24-25, though I disagree, and I put a couple of other teams there, which is a great way to transition into my top 25. So I teased earlier today on the show, that there's a new number 1 in my top 25. And I flip-flop Georgia and Michigan, okay? It's 5 games in. We're damn near to the halfway point of the season, so we can do some evaluation. Now, I understand you will tell me, and you will be right, that Michigan ain't played nobody. And I will tell you what I tell everybody. You play the teams that are on your schedule. Okay? That's all you can do. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, all right, you got nobody that you played against. Did you dominate those nobodies that you played against? Michigan damn sure has. The defense has allowed 30 points all year. Nobody scoring in double digits. They are winning their games by an average of 24 points. All right? They're putting up 30 a game, 40 a game, and they're doing it in the most ho-hum, boring fashion. There's nothing fascinating or fantastic about it. They just run the ball well, execute on play action, and stop people from scoring. Now, you'll tell me again, RJ, the best team they played is Rutgers. And I'm not going to disagree with you. But I'm looking at the two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs, and there's been nothing that they have done to convince me that they are the best team in the country. Now, again, Michigan might not be, but that's kind of the point right now, right? Is if we are looking at what they have accomplished so far, they've been able to do all of this without their head coach on the field for half the games. Jim Harbaugh missed 3 games on his couch, moving first down markers at his kids' games, eating paninis on his offensive coordinator's couch, watching the multi-view on the streaming service, and they are still just knocking people to the ground and running them down. Now, is Nebraska good? No, but they had a 45-point lead on Nebraska before the Huskers could find the end zone on the road. All right? Now, you can tell me whatever you want about Nebraska's product on the field, and I will tell you it was full, and they had the full force of the Husker fan base behind them. And I will also tell you that Georgia had a similar opponent in Auburn earlier this weekend. And that was a dogfight. We were damn near thinking that Auburn was going to beat Georgia at Jordan-Hare because that's what the game was. Nothing about that Georgia defense terrified Auburn's offense. Auburn's offense led by Peyton Thorne. Auburn's offense that felt good about moving Robbie Ashford in there to run the ball from time to time. They kept Brock Bowers in check, and it ultimately was their undoing is that dude just decided in the second half, all right, it's Bowers time, and had like 7 catches and 148 yards and a TD in the second half of the game. But that also, you needed to do this for a second straight week. I'm getting tired of watching the dominant, defending, national champion Georgia Bulldogs need to come back against middling SEC teams. Auburn ain't nobody. Texas A&M ain't nobody. Beat Auburn. South Carolina ain't bad, but they damn sure ain't good. And this sport that we love so much, it's not about winning. That's in other sports. The NFL, you get to be a winner over there, it's fine. In our sport, you have to be perfect. That is the barrier for entry. And in you being perfect, you have to dominate. So if I see teams that are perfect, like Michigan and Georgia, the next question I ask is, did you dominate your competition? Nothing about Georgia's offense or defense screams dominant. You still have some convincing to do. And through 5 weeks of a 15-week season where we play 12 games, yeah, I'm going to move this around, man, because something's got to give when you are the team that we all expect to become the first to win 3 straight national championships since integration. And that's if you want to count what Minnesota did in 34, 35, 36, and many people don't. And I think Georgia's fallen into the same trap that the U.S. women's national team fell into. We expect you to win. You know you're good. So you think you can show up and people will roll over for you. Quite the opposite. Everybody is coming after you. Kirby Smart seems to know that. I would like to see that his kids know that too. We're going to find out here in the next few weeks. They got a tough Kentucky team that wants their head too, right? Ohio State, they're in the big noon game coming up this week. They got an undefeated Maryland. Also, wild statistic. Ohio State's going to face 5 straight undefeated opponents for the first time since 1940. And I'm probably going to dig more into this, but Maryland feels like they're about it. Texas at 4, I'm fine with. They beat a good Kansas football team who was previously undefeated, 40-14. They look like the kind of team that I've been saying that they might be all year. They're going to have to do more to prove it to other folks. Penn State's Penn State. I moved Oregon to 6 off the strength of that common opponent win with Colorado. You put Colorado in check the way that you did, and then SC allows 41 and lets a 48-14 lead get away from them and had themselves really in a bind if Shedeur Sanders doesn't check the runs and decides to just go with his talent. But you're also looking at Caleb Williams, who had 6 TDs, ho-hum in this game, and over 400 yards passing, ho-hum in this game. And Marshawn Lloyd, who's just outstanding. Like, I don't know that I've seen a better play this year. I know we've seen some catches, but this man was dead to rights on this play. And he turned around, reverse field, found blocks, got a block from the quarterback, and made it to the end zone. At times I was going, I know that Caleb Williams is your best player, but you ain't got to use him. Let Marshawn Lloyd do his thing, and then you got Caleb Williams rolling to his left, looking downfield, hitting people in stride. I think I'm still in on SC, but I can't ignore what Oregon did against Colorado, and I can't ignore what Oregon did against Stanford. I just want to see those two teams play in the worst way because I have a sneaking suspicion that those are the 2 best teams in the conference, but I'm open to be told I'm wrong, and I'm open to them showing it. But no, I'm not open to being told I'm wrong. I'm open to them showing that I'm wrong. Let's be very clear about this, all right? So if you're Washington, you go beat Oregon, fine, cool. Like what Oregon State did against Utah. But I'm not going to give that up until we get there. I got Florida State at 9. I don't know what there is to know about this team at this point. Mostly because their best win was LSU at a time when people thought LSU was the 5th best team in the country. Okay. LSU just gave up 55 and 706 to Ole Miss, who couldn't move the football against Alabama, an Alabama team that got beat by Texas in Tuscaloosa. Okay. Who has Florida State beaten now? LSU. Cool. Who else? Clemson. Duke beat them first. Now they got Duke later on in the schedule. But knowing what this team has been hot and cold and that they didn't lead Clemson until the overtime period, and it was such a big deal for them to beat Clemson. Is that your bowl game this year? I just need you to do more to prove it, but I'm going to keep you a top 10 team because that's what you earn. I got Notre Dame right where AP does. Again, win out, takes care of itself. Same thing with Alabama. Oklahoma, again, you're going to get a lot of Oklahoma from me, but I think 12 is a good spot for them right now. And as I go through this, I'm a little bit higher on LSU than the AP, right? I got them at 20, they got them at 23. But Kentucky and what they did to Florida has me wondering, is Kentucky good? Or did Florida just play its best football game against Tennessee and nobody else? I just don't know. And maybe that's what it is, right? Because Florida-Tennessee is a lot like, well, I'm not even going to say that. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say that it means a lot for Florida to beat Tennessee and vice versa, right? So maybe you get up for that game in the way you don't. But this Maryland team at 24, I got them ahead of a Fresno State or a Louisville. What I said to Mike Loxley right here on this show as we're doing Big Ten media days is, hey, coach, I like the schedule. And you could be 5-0 by the time you play Ohio State. And he said, RJ, you already counting wins on me, bro? Can you not? I'm like, hey, look who was right. You know what I'm saying? Now you get to go to the shoe. After Talia Tagovailoa had a great game in his last outing, 352 yards, first 5-0 start since 2001. The Terps got to be feeling good about going up against this Ohio State team that had a week to come down off the Notre Dame win and then has to prove it all over again. Very excited about that game. And then Tennessee at 25. I trust Josh Heupel, Joe Milton, and that defense more than I trust whatever's going on at Louisville. Because I watched Louisville play Friday night, and I was not impressed. They're 5-0, and it's Jeff Brom's first year. And you got Jack Plummer back there operating for you, but there was nothing about what they did against NC State that said to me, you should be in the top 25 ahead of teams like Tennessee, Maryland, or even UCLA for that matter, who I think is going to be outstanding and good. Man, Missouri's right there. Imagine Missouri being the difference between Georgia playing in the SEC championship and not. I can't wait. I'm going to be all here for it. And we're going to be back right here on Wednesday to talk about OU Texas, Ohio State, Maryland, and the biggest games that we have ahead for this week. That's going to do it for this episode of the number one college football show. Our number one college football show leads from screening are Jack Coakley and Torrin Westfall. They make us better in the film room. Production assistant Kiara Santana puts the special in our special teams. Social producer Javion Duncan makes sure the recruits and the rivals see the cake we bake. John Marcus is sending in the signal. Senior producer Catherine Cordaji sees the entire field from the booth. Lead producer Tyler Wojak calls the plays from the sideline and the play snaps on my clap. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. Until then, stay low. Keep those feet grinding. Deuces.